who we appreciate coming on today and talking with us about the market and so forth. So just kind of jump in, Mike, if you don't mind. I know one thing that has been a hot topic, and I think probably maybe made the number one question that I've gotten a lot, and I know probably you've probably answered about 10 times, so you should be prepped for this one. But do you feel that we should expect a substantial decline in the amount of business being done if this continues to continue for any longer time?
I think most importantly, Mike, I think that most of the country has woken up to the fact that what we have to do to slow this down and try to solve the problem. So I think the worst of what we have seen in real estate probably took place in the month of April. That's, January, February were good months for the economy nationwide. The first 2 weeks of March for real estate was good. Really about March 15th is when the door started closing. And of course, April was tough. More because of the reaction of agents, and I'm not pointing the finger at the agents, than I am at the public. Because the public was still interested in buying and selling, but agents became very nervous, which is understandable, and pretty much withdrew from their work habits. So I think, first of all, the month of April is behind us, and that was going to be the worst month. I don't think the problem overall is going to last a long time. Everybody, the government, scientists, medical people are working on a solution, and it's going to be there for us. So, but at the same time, I have to say, if we take a look at the state of Indiana, how many agents would you guesstimate are in the entire state? Do you have a guesstimate for that?
Ooh, I probably should know this. I bet you somebody on here knows, but I literally do not know the amount. I'm getting flash numbers.
It's usually about 18,000.
Thank you.
Okay, say it again, please.
18,000 is what I was told.
Correct.
So here's what I want all the good agents on this call to think about. If there's 18,000 agents in the state of Indiana, probably 90% of them have been paralyzed by their mind and what they think about in relationship to the business today. And that's a tough thing to solve. So the truth is, even if the number of transactions, Mike, does drop moderately, and it probably is continuing to drop mostly on listings taken versus sales. If that number continues to drop on a national and local level, the number of agents participating, Mike, in the business is dropping a lot faster. So for those that are active and those that are participating and working, their transaction count is very strong. I probably have received 50 emails already this morning with April results from agents who are having, in many cases all over the country, their biggest month of their entire career because nobody is working in real estate. So
right.
First, I don't think this is going to last a long time. And I think your industry probably has even a better indication and projection of that than I do. But at the same time, I also think if the mindset of the agent is not tough, and it has to be tough in this kind of a market, and their skills are not strong, it doesn't matter whether the market's good or bad, they're going to get beat. So, I will say this to you, and you probably understand this best. The agents that started in real estate after 2012 are having the toughest time because they've never been through anything before.
Right.
I can tell by the smile on your face that you and I have been through a couple of wrinkles in this crazy real estate market.
I used to have hair. Yeah.
But you got hair, and I'm 23 with a lot of wrinkles. Okay, so if you really think about it, it's tough because they've never been through a bad time. So therefore, the reaction mentally is the challenge. So I think, to be more specific, it's not going to last a long time. We've probably seen the worst of it in the month of April. If they can keep their mindset strong, and if they're continuing to keep developing their skills, they're going to win because the amount of competition has shrunk.
Yeah.
Probably more of an answer than they wanted, but I hope that helps them.
Well, I think it kind of goes in line too. I mean, do you think there's a type of schedule that an agent should be following? Why, obviously most of them working for virtual. Is there something you could give tip wise, or what you see from an agent that would help them benefit, or what they should be doing in these times right now?
So is Indiana a necessary or unnecessary state for real estate?
Oh, Indiana, we're all about being essential here in Indiana. So we are deemed essential.
Good for you. It's interesting you should say that, because more of the Midwest, which is much more conservative, makes it essential, where the East and West Coast make it non-essential, and that's a problem. With the fact that we're working out of our homes, and that's what we're all having to do, it changes the dynamics because whether it be Coldwell Banker or Carpenter or Century 21 or any one of the great companies, when an agent goes to an office, they're in a comfortable environment, not necessarily to work hard, but to have associations, people to be around. Let's run to Starbucks. Let's go. What's going on Facebook? Those kind of conversations don't exist today. So the challenge the agent has now is a discipline challenge, because when you're in an office and there's 5, 10, 20, 30 people, even if nobody is really focused on working, you get caught up in the ethics of working. By yourself, you're caught up with the ethics of what's going on with your spouse, your kids, your dog, your cat. So the challenge is different. So here's what I'm asking, Mike, everybody to do. At about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, if you have a family, have a family sales meeting for about 5, 10 minutes and explain to your family, listen, I need to work for at least 1 hour straight uninterrupted to provide for the income that we all enjoy. After that 1 hour, I'll take 30, 40 minutes and I'll be with the kids when they're homework and with my spouse, whatever those family obligations are. Then go back for an hour and do that again. And do that 3 times a day. Because you and I know, because we talk to realtors every day, if every realtor in Indiana put in 3 hours of hard work a day, we would sell all of Indiana in the month of May. Okay, the state we would turn over 100% of the homes, because most agents, don't have the discipline for the blocking of time. So I'm asking everybody 3 hours a day, 3 1-hour blocks, and then spend the appropriate time with the family, the dog, the spouse, etc.
Great, great. And since I think the public and some of the public, I would say, is very nervous, I think what I'm hearing from some agents is we may consider doing something when the crisis ends near, depending on what they determine the end is. What would you say how to handle for an agent that is talking to clients when they say, hey, I'll talk to you when this is all over?
It's interesting, Mike. I think you and I have a lot of similarities in the work that we do. If a buyer isn't qualified and motivated, there's nothing you can do to help that buyer buy a house. Well, if an agent cannot determine the motivation of that buyer or seller, they can't do anything to help them buy or sell a house. So what I'm telling the agents is, today you're going to have bucket A over here. All the people that have the desire to do something now, they're going to be in bucket A. You're going to do your normal, good, solid, ethical lead follow-up with those people. But the big challenge is bucket B, which is all the people that are the normal excuses. If we think about it this way, Indiana known for hot, warm, sunny weather in January and February. Okay, you're one of the state in those times of winter. In the wintertime, buyers and sellers say, we're going to wait till after the spring comes before we hire. So now the spring comes, they have tax time. Then they say, well, we want to wait now until the kids get out of school. So now we're waiting till the kids get out of school. And then, of course, you can't do anything in the summer because of vacations. So we're going to wait until September. Well, we can't do it now because kids are going back to school. And then, well, let's wait till October. Oh, well, it's holiday season's coming. So what I've discovered, there is a defined cycle of non-motivated buyers and sellers excuses that they have all the time. This is a new one. Now we're saying the excuse is we're waiting for the virus to pass. So in bucket B, I want them to save all those names and over communicate with all of them for the next 30, 60, 90 days. Because these people probably, if they are motivated, are going to come back into the market when the floodgates open, and they're going to come back to the agents that are communicating with them. So every 7 to 10 days, you and I, Mike, have to remind them, are you talking to the people in bucket B? Are you giving them market stats, neighborhood reports? Are you giving them information as to what's going on? So when they come into the market, they want to come to the agent that has communicated the best information to them. So it's a little different approach, but everything always comes back to motivation, as you and I know. If they're motivated, they're going to find a way to buy. Okay. If they're motivated, they're going to find a way to do the jobs that I requested them. So if they're not motivated, nothing you and I can do to help.
Yeah. So kind of knowing and playing off some of the things you just said, knowing that social distancing is probably going to be in place in some form and different geographics for a while, who should they be prospecting or talking to, or what would you recommend?
You know, it's funny because you and I both know this crazy thing called a cell phone. 60 days ago was the enemy of most real estate agents. You know, and I don't mean this to sound critical, but I mean, I would get phone calls. Mike, I don't like calling people, and I don't like talking to people on the phone, and I don't want to disturb them, and I don't know what to say. And of course, you know, I always say, would you like a glass of wine with, you know, and cheese, because all you're doing is whining to me the whole time. Today, this is your greatest advocate because everybody's home. Everybody's answering their phones. In fact, today in a house, people race to see who can answer the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm hearing from agents every day now is if I make 20 calls, 15 people answer. But 60 days ago, I made 20 calls, 5 people answered. So my challenge today as an agent is getting people off the phone, not getting them on. So what I want your agents to do and all your clients, most importantly, call their past clients every 30 days during this time. Keep them informed because they're the people that trust you and have the closest relationship with you. Second, call all of their centers of influence because these are their referral sources. So, Mike, I don't know if it's any different in Indiana than it would be in the state of Washington or in Louisiana. But this disease that is affecting the world today is different to this degree. We can't see it, we can't feel it, we can't touch it, we can't smell it. And I had a broker say to me a couple days ago, who would have ever thought that you could walk outside and touch something and get a disease and not know it's there? Well, that's an extreme, but that's the feeling people have. So the center of influence, which are your referral sources, are very nervous. So reassuring, being the calming force, feeding them good information. But then the third source of prospecting has to be the just listed, just sold. Okay, so I'm going to use the example. So Mike Wood and his wife pull out of the drive on a Saturday morning to go to the shop, and they signed some local real estate company. The conversation in the car is always going to be, I'll bet our home is nicer. I'll bet we could get more than they get for theirs. I wonder where they're moving to. Those conversations don't exist today because people are homeward bound. So now if I call 15 to 20 people in every neighborhood where we have a transaction and I'm allowed to talk and I am engaged in conversation, I look like a neighborhood expert. I'm delivering a sense of service because now they know something is going on. So past clients, centers of influence, then the just listed, just sold phone calls are vitally important. And if they don't know what to say, and this is not a commercial, just go to mikeferry.com and download the scripts. It's all, we teach them what to say and we don't charge for it. So I hope they take advantage of both yours and my service. I guess this would be the new Mike and Mike in the morning, what we're doing here today.
There you go. I like it. So kind of again, wonder if you can elaborate on one thing. Do you believe of what you just said, how much of it really is a mindset, like positivity of getting yourself in the right mindset every morning? So like you're talking about doing the things and staying on track. How much of it truly is just a mindset?
Well, you'll get a kick out of this because our mutual friend Tom told me a lot of great things about you. So I'm watching your response and watching your reaction. So you're going to get a kick out. I used to say for years, selling real estate is 50% mindset, 50% skills, and 50% action. And I had a brain trust of realtors say, well, that's 150%. I said, that's what's required if you're going to be a top producing agent. Okay. If you do any less than that, you're not going to succeed. Today, I've changed it. 85% mindset and 15% all the rest. And that's the hardest part of what we're dealing with today, because it really is a mindset issue. Okay. And if you don't, and we're going to talk about being more positive a little bit later in our conversation, but if you're not willing to control this, you can't control this, because what's up here comes out of here. So if a person says, how's the real estate market? Oh my God, it's really awful. Well, gee, that's a positive sign. So last Saturday, we live in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I got a phone call, Mike, from a local realtor who was a client and said, Hi, Mike, it's blank. Would you like a market update? I said, I'd love one. What's going on in the Las Vegas market? Well, first of all, the number of new listings is down 49%. I said, stop. She goes, stop what? Don't say another word. I don't want the bad news. I want the good news. How many listings were taken in the month of April? Well, she goes, well, it was 4,615. I said, now to the public, that is incredibly good news.
Right.
So what I want you to do is call people and say, I want to share some good news. We've had X number of pendings in our company, in our board, in our market in the last 30 days. We've had X number of listings take place. The business is active and exciting. Would you like to participate? See, that's a mindset. So first, thank you for asking that question. That was an important one. Thank you.
Okay. And I think with everything, again, us becoming more a virtual industry right now versus face-to-face, what is your view on that? Or what does that mean, like, from your perspective?
You know, it's interesting because that question has come up a lot. Probably 15 to 20% of all the transactions in the nation every year are done virtually. Go to the Jersey Shore, it's all condos on the water, second homes. Florida, most of Florida is a second home market. The desert, Arizona, California are a second home. The resorts all over North America are second markets. They have always done things by antiquated phone and fax. Today's time, Zoom, DocuSign. So I think the most important thing I could say to all of your clients and your prospects, they have to understand that this virtual situation we're involved in today is the future of our industry. I'm willing to bet that by the end of this year, 50% of all transactions will be done virtually. Now, think about this. It's Saturday. I have an appointment with you and your wife to show you property. I've lined up 6 homes. My friend Mike Wood is pre-qualified. You're qualified to buy financially. I've pre-qualified the type of home. Now you're in my office at 10 o'clock. And I say to you the following. Mr. and Mrs. Wood, we have 2 choices. Number 1, we can spend most of the day, which I would enjoy doing, looking at 6 homes in the community that I think meet your needs, that you'll like. Or we can take the next 20 minutes and preview all 6 properties virtually so you get an understanding of them. And then we can pick the 2 you'd like to see. Would you like to spend 6 hours doing this or 2? Which is best for you? 99% of the world say 2, which means we're going to make a virtual showing of the presentation. So I think the hard part of what we're talking about, Mike, is not the fact that we know this is now available. The hard part is learning how to do what you and I are doing. And that's, see, because when we're on the screen together like this, it's up front, close and personal. You can't hide your flaws. You know, if you don't have good diction, a good understanding of the language, you know, if you've got all sorts of weird things taking place in your head and it's showing on the screen, you know, and all that kind of stuff, it's not going to be good, okay? So what I'm saying to agents today is if they do role play in practice, for example, a listing presentation, they need to role play it virtually, because this is what the future is going to be for us. It's going to be speed, efficiency, time saved to buyers and sellers. It's going to be probably one of the most important things that we've done from a technology standpoint. We're all saying technology is the answer. Well, here it is. Are you picking up the phone to answer? Because that's the name of the game. So I think that the virtual world is our future.
And kind of, again, one thing that pops up here, do you think that the agents should lower their expectations for the balance of this year with everything going on?
Well, I've never believed ever in lowering expectations. What I believe is when you face a difficult time, you raise your standards, which is just the opposite of lowering your expectations. Because see, the nice part about what we're all experiencing today is in most cases, the agents have more free time today than they ever had before. So now, if I say to an agent, if we look at, and I'll do this quickly, time management, prospecting, lead follow-up, listing presentation, showing presentation, handling objections, closing the sale, negotiating the contract, which of those 9 is your weakness? And they identify something. Raise your standards by working on it, because now you have the time. Your home isolated to work, particular skill. So what I'm telling you is not lower your standards. Okay. The worst is behind us. Watch, the green light is now getting much brighter in the month of May. So now raise your standards as to what you know, and then you can become more effective.
Great. That's awesome. But I think, do you anticipate the prices that will drop if the crisis continues or until it gets resolved? Where do you view price points? I know that's kind of one of the things that a lot of agents that we hear from, the impacts of home values.
Well, I would ask a question because you have a good knowledge of your state. Is the inventory in still a shortage model today in Indiana?
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's so they're going to like this, or they're not going to like it. It's going to be one or the other. When have you ever thought that a shortage of inventory is advantageous to a real estate market? And the answer is right now. Because see what happens when you have a shortage of inventory. I mean, it's basic economics. Okay, it's a simple law that if there is no inventory, prices are stable and will continue to fluctuate in a positive manner. If there's excessive inventory, what happens to prices? They go through the floor. I mean, why are interest rates so low? Because there's a lot of money available. Okay, we go to 2012, it was a whole different world than what we have today. So 2007 to 2012, everything was for sale. I mean, there were millions of homes on the market. We had 24, 26, 28 month supply. Most of the country today, there's 30 to 45, maybe 60-day supply. So it's basic economics. Now, here's the advantage of this crazy market we're in. If an agent will list a property fairly priced, it's going to sell because the demand is there. So it's a huge advantage to a seller and a huge advantage to a buyer to have this limited inventory we have today. But at the same time, the real money is for all the agents that are willing to take the listings.
Gotcha. Thank you. And you mentioned 2007, 2008, and for those that were around to experience that wonderful time of, and for some of us that started our companies right in the middle of that time, we remember it. We remember it like it was yesterday. But one question I had, this is actually one that I wanted to ask you personally. When we talk to clients and we know agents as well, and I think we all have our personal feelings of what's going on in the market. But when you hear the world and the economy are coming to an end, when you hear the doom and gloom, what have you seen? Like, you've been in the industry a while, and you've seen that. What are your experiences and feelings on all of that?
Mike, when did you start your company?
I
What
was
year?
smart. I started right at 2007, so I beat it by a couple months.
So, it's almost like you could not have picked a worse year to start, and thank
Right.
goodness you're here.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So I'm going to take them on a little history lesson, which most of them won't understand. 1972, Southern California, Mike Ferry as a real estate agent, which I was. I closed 3 transactions in the month of December, 2 FHA, 1 conventional, 30-year fixed loans. Interest rate was 18.5%. Now, Mike, can you imagine saying to all your clients tomorrow, well, there's been a bump in the rates. We went from 3.6 to 18.5 yesterday. I mean, they would all be going to work for Walmart by the end of the day. In 1973, we were closing FHA transactions at 21%. We thought the world was coming to an end, but here's the catch. We lived through it. Now, here's what's really interesting. 1987, we had a day called Black Monday, the greatest drop in the stock market in the history of our country since 1929. We thought the world had ended. We lived through it. Personal feeling only, the most tragic moment in American history was 9/11. When those Twin Towers came down, I mean, it broke the hearts of every American to see that tragic moment. And we never thought that we'd ever get through that terrible time. We got through that. 2007 to 2012. I mean, I'm looking at a living testament to hard work and good effort. You made it through that period. See, I think that the greatest asset of the American public is resilience. You know, we can get knocked down, we can get tripped, we can get kicked. We always come back stronger than before. So yes, this is a very serious problem, this pandemic. And unfortunately, people are passing away because of it. We're going to get through this if we keep our head on straight and we keep doing our job every day. I've seen so much worse than this. I mean, I've seen just in 2017-18, we had 65,000 people die from the flu in our country. Okay. Never heard about that. So, you know, we have to look and protect ourselves, protect our family, but we also have to earn a living by doing our jobs. So we can't keep this thing closed down forever. And as I said, every single day we have our clients doing great amounts of work. I got a note from John Sullivan, local real estate agent in Las Vegas, 3 years in the business. Since March 1st, 21 listings taken and 23 buyer and seller controlled sales closed in the last 2 months. And he smilingly says to me, I don't understand the problem. And I said, here's the advantage. You're the only one working in the office. Okay, that's the advantage. So can I throw a thought at you guys that might help them? If we have the worst year we've had in 15 years in the US for real estate, we're going to do 4 million sales this year. 4 million. That's 8 million commission checks are going to be distributed to great people like are on this call. How many do they want individually? They don't need probably more than 10, 15, 20 to have a good life. So if there's 8 million checks available, reach into the pot and decide what you want to do and what you're going to get. And I know that you're a big part of that, helping to make that happen. So hats off to you. And I'm glad you're doing this.
I appreciate it. And obviously, Mike, you've been around, you've got a very strong mindset. How do you keep your mindset strong, and how do you cut out the negativity and the fear and the experience that you're talking about? What kind of tips can you give agents to do exactly that?
Does the name Earl Nightingale, Mike, ring a bell with you at all? He was a Chicago resident in the motivational industry.
Only because our mutual friend told me stories about him a few months ago.
Okay, good. Thank you. I had the good fortune of working with Earl Nightingale from 1966 to 1970 in Chicago at the company headquarters. So I was very lucky to have exposure to one of the great minds that we've ever had in our country. Earl taught me a very simple rule. He said, every morning when you wake up, you have a choice. Get out of bed or roll over. Make sure you make the right choice. And when your feet hit the floor, you have a choice. Do something positive, do something negative. Always make the right choice. When you start working on something you're trying to accomplish, make sure you give it full effort. It's a choice. So I have 3x5 cards all over the place, and all it says is the word choice. And I look at them every day because I know that with what's going on, most people are very, very, very deeply concerned, emotional, traumatic, fearful, panicking with what's going on. But that's also a choice. So I've trained myself to make positive choices. Now, to be specific, I haven't watched the news on TV in probably 40 years. So last Thursday after dinner, because we've been in the house now for 55 days. And, I'm lucky because my son Matthew said to me, Dad, when's the last time you've been home for 55 days? I said 45 years ago before I started the company, because I've spent my life on the road dealing with great real estate people. So here's what I want people to think about. Last Thursday, for the first time, my wife and I, after dinner, turned on the local Las Vegas news. And I'm not kidding, Mike. Within 1 minute, we both reached for the clicker to turn it off because it was so negative. So watch. I don't watch the news. I don't play around on social media. I'm always reading books that are very inspiring and exciting and keep your mind active. The advantage of these crazy iPads, every day I can take and go online and I can watch 10 or 15 minutes of a great motivational message from Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, Darren Hardy, all these great people that have these great messages. So I just have a real strong filter that I've built. Anybody can do that if they choose to. So I'm just going to say to all your great customers and prospects, make the right choice, because that's what affects everything you do in the course of the day.
Got a couple of questions, if you don't mind, if you got some time, Mike,
Please. Yes.
for some people here. Julie asked, if you don't have a base of clients in your market, so if you're newer, if you don't have a strong base, should you be mailing out to expireds, or would be your opinion on that?
Well, I think any activity Julie takes that puts her name in front of a prospect is a good idea. I'm not a big fan of mail outs. I'm a bigger fan of Julie going again to MikeFerry.com, taking the scripts that we offer and simply reading the scripts on the phone to the expireds to see if she can get an appointment. So for sale by owners, expired listings, just listed, just sold, developing her center of influence list with the neighbors, with the friends, what is the dry cleaners, who owns it, who runs the supermarket, where does she get, who's her insurance man? All of these are people that she does know that she can start influencing to help her out. But I would say to Julie, beware of the mailings because, well, let's take a different approach. I'm going to ask Julie a question and she doesn't have to answer. Julie, do you get a lot of junk mail at your house and do you honestly read it? The answer is yes and no. I get a lot, I never read it. So you have to be cautious that just because we're sending something out with our photo on it, which makes no sense at all, that they're going to read it. So talk to them. That's the answer. Thank you, Julie.
Thanks, Mike. And one other question came from Chris. Chris was asking, he said, Mike, how can people remotivate themselves if they've lost some of the passion for what they're doing throughout this?
Well, first of all, I have said forever that motivation is temporary. And whether it be demotivation, depression, or exciting motivation, challenging and achieving, it's all temporary. And you have to understand, we all go through periods where we're not excited, we're not determined, we're not focused, we're not going to kill the world. It's called normal. So if you take a man or woman over age 50, 55, in a bad market, and you're not highly aggressive, this time is tough. So what would you like to have? What would you like to do? Where would you like to go? What would you like to have that you don't have? Make a list of 4 or 5 things that you would enjoy, you and your family, that you'd like to have. Where would you like to go that you haven't been to, that you'd like to visit? Make a list of 4 or 5. And then start figuring out how many transactions you'd have to do to accomplish that. And then figure out what your plan is each day to make that happen. Because see, the truth is, only 5% of the world is naturally motivated every day. 95% of us, Mike, we have to work at it every day, and that's what makes life so much fun. So, Chris, you can relight the fire, okay? But a friend of mine said to me yesterday, always stay close to the fire. That's how you stay hot. Because when you back away from the fire, it gets real cold in life. So, Chris, relight the fire.
I wish I could play that over, because I think that's the number one thing you've just said. Whether I'm talking to loan officers in my company or I'm talking to agents, is from what I've seen, it's the ones that are continuing to find a way without making the excuses that are continuing to do the business. It's the old saying that, 10% are doing 90% of the work that I feel like in the industry. But I really appreciate you taking the time, Mike.
My pleasure.
It's great.
Can I throw a thought at you, if I may?
Absolutely.
Do you have access to all the people that are on this call with us today?
Yes, sir. They don't know it. I'm actually tracking them right now. I know where their address is, everything.
I'm going to, if I may, I'm going to send you 2 little reports I wrote. One is called the 20 Best Methods of Prospecting in This Market. And the second one is 19 Things to Do to Adapt to This Market. I'm going to send them both to you, and then I'll let you put your name on it next to mine. And then why don't anybody that wants a copy, I'd rather them come through you because you're the source of this program today, than come to me and work around you, because I want these people to understand. Well, I'm going to do something now that somebody will not like this, but I've known that all my life. Somebody doesn't like what I say. I'm going to ask your audience a couple of questions. First of all, did you enjoy today's work that Mike and I have done? And they're probably going to say yes. Would you like to see Mike and Mike do more of these kind of things in the future? And I'm sure most would say yes. And then I'm going to say, do you believe in the law of cause and effect? And they go, well, yes. Well, if Mike Wood has caused you to get some good ideas in your head, the effect should be that Mike Wood handles your next 4 or 5 loans for your buyers and sellers. So then I would say to them, how many are not going to give Mike Wood a loan in the near future? And nobody's hand goes up. So Mike, hopefully we have several hundred people that want to do more business with you. So I'm going to send you those 2 reports, and then anybody that wants a copy, they can contact you, and you can keep that bond and relationship strong with them. Fair enough?
We really, really appreciate it. Before you go, I did have one other question. Somebody wants to know if you still plan on holding the Superstar retreat in July.
Yes, we are not. The hotel has decided we cannot do it because Las Vegas Strip is basically closed down, and it's going to be a long time before it reopens. Now, what you'll get a kick is what we're going to do is in mid-September, I'm going to do the entire retreat virtually.
Awesome.
So I'm going to save a lot of money for all my friends from Indiana that don't have to travel, pay for a nice hotel and meals. They can do this in the comfort of their office or home. The hotel told us last week, and you'll get a kick on this, we normally have 4,500 people attend our big retreat. They told us this year we could go ahead and do it with 400 people because all the chairs have to be 6 feet apart in every direction. So I'd be sitting there looking at a bunch of little islands in a giant ballroom. So we're gonna do it virtually, and I'll send that information to you if you want to pass that out to your clients also.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of people that are on, or people that would definitely look forward. And if you don't mind sharing with it before you go, if somebody wants more information or wants to hear about the services you and your organization do to help build, how would they do that? What's the best way?
And I communicate by email and by phone. I communicate by email 300 times a day. That's my normal day. So let me give my email address if I may. Okay, it's very complicated. Mike.ferry. Mike.ferry@mikeferry.com. So it's a very simple email. Somebody said to me last week, it's an egotistical email. I said, wait a minute, I'm 75 years old. I'm just glad I can remember it. Okay, so it's not complicated at all. So I want to say to you, of course, thank you. Thanks for getting it organized. Thanks to Tom for assisting in this. And I wish all of you the best of luck that are watching. And so, Mike, for you and I can give you a virtual high five. That's about the best I can do. Well, I'll say hats off to everybody, and we'll look forward to seeing you all soon. Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate it, Mike. And for those that were on the call, last thing, we do have some giveaways that we'll be emailing you guys on, just to give you a heads up. Just want to say thank you, Mike Ferry. Thank you for all your agents for taking the time. Hey, I enjoy the chance to get all dolled up for you guys, so I appreciate it. And thanks a lot, guys. Have a good day.